What if I told you that silence, real silence, is making millions of people anxious, restless, and mentally exhausted? Not noise, not chaos, but silence. Every time your phone goes quiet, every time you sit alone with no sound, your brain starts panicking, even if you don't notice it. And today, I'll explain why your brain was never designed for silence, what happens when you experience it too often, and how it quietly damages your focus, mood, and mental strength. Stay until the end, because the last truth will change how you experience being alone forever. For most of human history, silence meant danger. Imagine our ancestors on the savannah. The world around them was a symphony of sounds, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, the distant calls of other animals. This was the soundtrack of safety. It meant everything was normal. But then suddenly, it all stops. No birds, no wind, no movement. That sudden, complete silence was the most terrifying sound of all. It meant only one thing. A predator was nearby. Something was watching you. Your brain evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to treat silence as a threat signal. It's hardwired into our most primal survival instincts. When the world goes quiet, your brain doesn't relax. It goes on high alert. It says, "Warning, potential danger ahead." Your heart rate might rise. Your muscles tense up. Your thoughts start to speed up as your mind scans for what's wrong. You feel uneasy, a low-level hum of anxiety, even if you're sitting in a perfectly safe room. This ancient survival mechanism is still active within you right now. That's why so many of us can't stand the quiet. We reach for our phones, not because we're bored, but because the constant stream of notifications and content acts as a digital safety blanket. We turn on background music while we work, or have the TV on even when we're not watching it. We put in headphones for a walk, not just for the music, but to drown out the silence. We're not always seeking entertainment. We're seeking psychological safety. We're telling our ancient brain, "See, there's noise. Everything is okay. There are no predators here." This constant need for stimulation isn't a modern flaw. It's a deep-seated evolutionary response. We're instinctively trying to avoid the alarm bell that silence triggers in our minds. So what actually happens in your brain during silence? You might think that when external sound disappears, your brain finally gets to rest. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Instead of powering down, your brain simply turns its focus inward. This shift activates a fascinating network of brain regions known as the default mode network, or DMN. Think of the DMN as your brain's idle mode, but it's anything but idle. It's the part of your brain that's responsible for self-reflection, planning for the future, and recalling memories. But when it's not guided, it can quickly turn into a factory for overthinking. When the DMN takes over in an unstructured silence, it can unleash a torrent of mental noise. Suddenly, you're replaying a conversation from last week, picking apart every word you said. You're worrying about a deadline that's 2 months away. You might find yourself caught in loops of regret about past mistakes or having detailed, imaginary arguments in your head. It's the part of your brain that whispers self-criticism, questions your decisions, and generates anxiety about things that haven't even happened. That's why silence often brings a storm of racing thoughts, a wave of sadness from old memories, or a sense of fear without any apparent reason. Your brain despises a vacuum, so when there's no external noise, it fills the silence with its own noise, mental noise. This isn't a sign that there's something wrong with you. It's your brain doing its job. The DMN is incredibly useful when we use it intentionally for things like creative problem solving or setting goals. But when we fall into silence accidentally, without any preparation, the DMN runs wild. It's like leaving a powerful engine running without anyone in the driver's seat. It can spin out of control, dredging up our deepest insecurities and anxieties. The silence outside is replaced by a chaotic storm inside, and for many, that inner noise is far more stressful than any external sound. This is the paradox of silence. The less you hear from the outside world, the more you hear from yourself. Now, let's talk about the hidden damage of too much of this uncontrolled silence. While short periods of quiet can be restorative, extended silence without the right mental tools can be corrosive. When you're constantly exposed to your brain's unfiltered, anxious chatter, it starts to change you. First, it can increase your anxiety sensitivity. Your brain learns to associate quiet moments with stress, so you become even more reactive to silence in the future. The simple act of being alone in a quiet room can start to feel like a threat in itself. Second, it can reduce your emotional regulation. When your mind is constantly spinning with negative thoughts and worries, your ability to manage your emotions wears down. You become more irritable, more prone to sudden mood swings, and less resilient to everyday frustrations. It's like being in a constant state of low-grade mental combat, and it's exhausting. Third, and perhaps most importantly, it amplifies negative thoughts. The default mode network has a known negativity bias. It tends to focus on problems, threats, and past failures. In silence, this bias goes unchecked. Small worries can morph into full-blown fears. A minor self-doubt can spiral into a crisis of confidence. This is why some people feel their worst during times that are supposed to be peaceful. On vacations, on quiet weekends, late at night, or even after retirement. These are periods with less external structure and more internal quiet. For a mind that hasn't been trained to handle it, this isn't peace. It's unfiltered exposure to your own mind's most chaotic tendencies. You're left alone with the noise inside your head, and it creates a profound fear of being alone. This isn't true rest. It's a form of mental and emotional strain that quietly chips away at your well-being. So why do modern humans seem to struggle with this more than ever before? Our ancestors also experienced silence, but they experienced it with purpose. Silence during a hunt was a tool for focus. Silence around a campfire was a space for connection and storytelling. Silence during a period of rest was a natural part of a day's rhythm. Their silence was supported by rituals, by community, and by a deep connection to the natural world. It was structured, intentional, and meaningful. Modern silence, on the other hand, is often accidental and unsupported. It's the quiet that descends when your Wi-Fi cuts out. It's the empty space between tasks when you're working from home alone. It's the sudden stillness when you put down your phone after an hour of scrolling. We stumble into it without any rituals, without mental training, and without emotional preparation. So instead of becoming a source of peace or reflection, silence becomes a source of psychological pressure. Your brain simply doesn't know what to do with it. It's like being given a powerful, complex tool with no instruction manual. You're more likely to hurt yourself than to build something beautiful with it. Our hyperstimulated world has left us unequipped to handle its absence, turning what could be a gift into a source of anxiety. But here's the good news. Silence doesn't have to be your enemy. It is an incredibly powerful tool for clarity, creativity, and mental strength, but only when it's controlled. You have to learn to guide your mind, rather than letting it run wild. The key is not to fear silence or avoid it, but to approach it intentionally. So instead of falling into long, unstructured periods of quiet, start small. Try incorporating short, deliberate silence periods into your day. Just 2 to 5 minutes is a great start. During this time, the goal isn't to think about nothing. That's impossible. Instead, give your mind a simple anchor. Focus on the physical sensation of your breathing. Notice the air moving in and out of your lungs. Or, do a quick body scan, paying attention to the feeling of your feet on the floor or your hands resting in your lap. The crucial part is this: no phone, no music, no stimulation, and most importantly, no resistance. If your mind wanders, and it will, just gently guide it back to your anchor without judgment. By doing this, you are training your default mode network. You're teaching it to be quiet when you want it to be. You re-showing your brain that silence doesn't have to mean danger or an invitation for anxiety. It can be a safe, controlled space for rest. Remember, silence itself isn't the enemy. Unprepared, uncontrolled silence is. By taking charge of these moments, you reclaim their power and turn them from a source of stress into a source of strength. So if silence scares you, if it makes you feel anxious or restless, it doesn't mean you're weak or broken. It means your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do: protect you. The key is not to fight this ancient instinct, but to understand it and learn to guide it. When you learn to navigate the quiet, to be present with your own mind without being overwhelmed by it, silence stops being a threat. It becomes a sanctuary. It becomes a source of profound strength, clarity, and inner peace. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights into how your mind works. We'll see you in the next video.